Joe! Joe の野郎。鬼姫が完全にぶっ潰しやがって。
Oh my god. Hello everyone, welcome to Joe Consumes Cinema. I'm your host, Ace Cutman, and today we have Ashita no Joe, episode 34. So last one was a weird one. Right after the events of, Joe's victory and Nishi's debut match, this random dude just shows up to the locker room, gives Joe an examination, and basically checks to see that there's no hemorrhages in the eye, there's no cuts or anything like that, gives him a clean bill of health, and then disappears, but then shows back up, very shortly after that, sets up shop right next to the gym, and just declares himself their doctor. And Dangpei's weirded out by it, but everybody is, saying, who the hell are you? Why are you here? We can't afford a doctor. And he basically says, don't worry, you don't even have to pay me. I'm your doctor regardless. So yeah, it's a very strange situation. The guy looks like a bum, so it makes sense that he's in Slumtown. But the way he's going about this, just insisting I'm now a part of the team, very weird. I hope at some point we get, more answers to who this guy is. I think his name is Dr. Oagawa or something like that. He had it on his sign. But yeah, weird addition, but, if he is good, that is something we are going to need in the future for sure. You absolutely need a cutman in your corner. Other than that, the whole thing, with the love triangle between Noriko, Mishiraki, and Joe, not really a super important storyline to me. I'm not sure it's going to actually matter in the grand scheme of things, but I guess it's something that's there to keep an eye on for now. But yeah, I am very eager to get to this one, but before we begin, as always, remember to blank, blank, and blank. Still very much a small channel, so every like, comment, share, subscribe that we can get really helps out. Really appreciate it. Patreon link down below. I'm really trying to push the Patreon this year, so any help there, much appreciated. You can even sign up as a free member. With that, let's get right to it. Sando Bakuni Kao Mega Ake Tatake 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 Ashite wa Kiito Ashite wa Dochida.
俺ってアジア圏の井上だよ。井上？おい、しっかりしてくれよ。君の次の対戦相手じゃない。俺の対戦相手は今のところたった一人しかいませんよ。
Yeah, let's focus is Joe. He landed it again. So, the thing that bothers me about this is he's getting hit every time it happens. Who's this dude? The aspiring boxer. Oh, that was quick. Yeah, for real. Yeah, if Joe's taking punishment just to deliver this shot, it's not worth it in the long run. They're all leaving, holy shit. Dear God. Now this I don't like to see. Kishi's got a brand new car. Winning a ton of fights as a main eventer. It's good for balance. They're not getting married. They just need these things. Oh my god, is he telling people that he's getting married so that they give him this shit?
たんまり入ったはずじゃねえか、俺のファイトマネーがよ。それでちょいちょいと払ってくれよ。
You're not making money yet.
俺のパンチは相手をマットに這いつくばらせるだけで、たった電気玉一つ買えねえのかよ。当たり前だ。
That's the dude from the fight.
僕をこのジムの練習生にしていただけないでしょうか。
練習生。
はい、僕矢吹ジョーさんのようなボクサーになりたいんです。
せっかくだが断るよ。うちはジョーと西で手一杯なんでな。
おいくらでしょうか。
10万円。
10万円。
帰りなさい。
でも確か10万円払えば。
わしが悪かった。君がまさかそんな大金。
Yeah, he named a really high number thinking the guy would, not come back.
気の毒だが君の期待には添えん。
あら、有名な男やないか。
あ、確かに10万円だ。
Joe's gonna be pissed off at this.
おっちゃん、今例の10万のやつ来たろ。
来たよ。
聞いたか、虹。今日はなんて素晴らしい日だ。
だがそのまま持って帰ってもらった。彼はわしの入門テストに落ちたんじゃ。
テスト？
もっと悪いのは耳を揃えて10万円を持ってくる。
さっぱりわからんな。
ボクシングはハングリースポーツ。古今東西金持ちのせがれがチャンピオンになった試しがなし。
This is an old, outdated mode of thinking about boxing, by the way.
あの10万円さえあれやな。
しゃあないやないか。ないもんはないんや。
矢吹さん、
He's back.
大変失礼だとは思ったんですが、これ。
電気屋の領収書じゃないかよ。
はあ、お邪魔している時に集金に来たんで払わせていただきました。
いい君、なかなか素質あるね。いい、とにかくいい。
That's kind of mean, Joe. Jesus. He can't give him proper instruction, and he shouldn't string him along just because he has money.
おいよ、あれは一体何の真似や。
見りゃわかるだろ、個人教授さ。
そやかてお前、おっちゃんが。
そう、固いこと言うなって。内緒にしときゃわかりゃしないよ。それによ、電気屋の支払いを済ませてもらった義理ってもんがあんのよ。
なんやて。
明日またお願いします。
うん、どうもご苦労さんだね。
Uh-oh.
君、わしの診察を受けてみる勇気はあるかね。
西君、貯金通帳よ。きっとさっきの人よ。
How rich is he?
金持ちやあれ。見てみ。1000円、500円と3年がかりでコツコツ貯めて、やっと10万や。あの10万円は、それを全額下ろした金だったんや。
石倉治、中野区へ5た4の37若草印刷所内。住み込みなのよ、この人。
バカ野郎！
Yeah, he deserved that.
おっちゃん、だってよ、あいつを金持ちのドラム息子だって、そうい。
何をこれよ。
おい、石倉、お客さんだほら。
あ、矢吹さん。
He works at a printing press, it looks like, for like a newspaper.
ごめんな。俺ちょっと、あんたを勘違いしちまったんだよ。
僕はボクシングが好きでよく出かけました。でも自分がリングに上がろうなんて一度も考えたことはなかったんです。矢吹さんの試合を見て僕は体の中で眠っていた何かが目を覚ましたんです。よし、じゃあ今度はリングサイドに陣取って思いっきり声援させてもらおうかな。実は僕やっぱりボクシングは見るだけにしたんです。大井川先生に言われたんです。僕の体はボクサー向きじゃないって。
Well, as far as physique goes, that can be built, so I don't know. He kind of gave up on the dream pretty quick.
あ、明日来いよ。またコーチってやるからよ。
矢吹さん、どうか僕のことはもう心配しないでください。それよりそんな時間があったらもっともっとトレーニングを積んで、今度の試合も必ず素晴らしい KO で勝利を飾ってくださいよ。
力士よ。そこにじっと待ってるんだ。
Ashita o mezashite tachi agaru tate 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 tatsunda Joe. Okay, I took some time just to gather my thoughts. That was episode 34, another really good one. So, Joe has 3 consecutive KOs now. This episode starts with him in his third fight, and again he's deploying the same tactic of, dropping his guard, letting his opponent beat him up, and then, they think he's done for. They try to knock him unconscious, and, they commit, and he lands that cross counter punch Something very concerning that I do not like Joe employing this tactic over and over again. First of all, there is a counter for it. There's a counter for everything. And if you use the same trick over and over again, eventually, some opponent will catch on and you're going to get clocked with something. The cross counter, the way Joe uses it, it relies on taking damage to even get to that point, and then worse, you take more damage. You basically cause what they call a car crash, where, simultaneous blow from both opponents. And Joe gets the better of it because, usually his reach and also they're just not expecting it, so it does more damage than it otherwise should. But yeah, this is a really bad long-term strategy, and Dangpei even told him, I told you to stop using this technique. Very concerning because Joe just blows him off like, oh, don't worry about it, it's not a problem. It very much is a problem. First of all, he's getting beat up in his first 3 fights, which is never good. He's taking all 3 of those blows, the simultaneous punches. And like I said, eventually somebody's going to catch on. Like somebody like Rikishi, I think, could plan for that and set Joe up for something that literally knocks him out. The right cross counter, the way Joe uses it, is a good technique to have in the bag if you have to use it, but don't rely on it over and over and over again like he is. No, it's not good for his long-term fighting career. There is a way to set that thing up and throw it and have it land without getting hit at all. And I don't think Joe is on that level. That's a very high technique to, get the opponent to commit thinking that you're dead in the water when you're really not. Slip their punch at the last second as you're landing yours. Very, very high level technique. And that's like, like Pernell Whitaker territory, or like Sugar Ray Robinson, or like a Terrence Crawford, like upper echelon of fighter. And Joe he's not anywhere near that. He has to, not only make his opponent think that he's dead in the water, but also take the hit in order to land his hit. And yeah, it's not a good recipe for long-term success, and he's taking unnecessary damage early in his career that is concerning, and, it's not good. Other than that, Rikishi, very much aware of Joe now and has him on his mind pretty much exclusively, even to the point where he says outright, I'm not looking at my next opponent, whoever it is. He's just thinking about Joe. But Joe had a interesting spectator, a big fan that was watching his matches. Ishiguro is his name, I believe. The guys originally think that, he's some spoiled rich kid that shows up because Dangpei, not wanting to take on a third student, names some, obscenely high price of 100,000 yen. Don't know what that is, relative to dollars, but seemed pretty damn expensive. And, this guy immediately comes up with it. They think, oh, this is some rich kid and he's, spending his parents' money to do this. It turns out he works at a printing press and he literally, wiped out his entire life savings to do this. Joe's taking advantage of the guy, lets him hit the heavy bag a little bit. Very, very green, just like Joe was when he first started, but there doesn't seem to be a whole lot there other than passion. Like, he's a nice enough guy, but it would take a ton of work and, years to actually make him into a boxer. By the way, that whole thinking where, they talked about how he's a rich kid, fighters have to be, from the slum, they have to struggle. That is so not true. That's a very old way of thinking about boxing and fighting in general. All you really need is the passion and the ability to work hard. And basically anybody can be made into a fighter. Now, for some people, it's going to take a lot longer to get there, but I'm a firm believer in, the workman boxer, the workman fighter. And yeah, all it really is passion and the proper dedication with, the right coaching and, a bunch of other elements mixed in. But, those 3 basic things, and you can turn basically anybody into a fighter. Now, having said that, I've always held very firm to the idea that people that struggle take to fighting much more naturally than people who have it easier. But it's not an exclusive thing. I've seen rich people who have taken up boxing and, they have a natural talent for it. And if they dedicate themselves properly, can actually, really make something of it. I've also seen people coming from a rich background, taking it for granted and, it doesn't end well for them. Think like Jake Paul, etc., those type of things. But that's like gimmick and like freak show territory. If we're talking about just an average person who's really, passionate about it and wants to be it and is willing to work hard for it, then yeah, I don't give a fuck what your wallet says, You can be a fighter if you really, really work at it. Other than that, Joe is now firmly acquainted with how little, first-time boxers really make. It's basically peanuts at this level. He has to, fight for a title to actually start making money. even a regional title like the Japanese title, you're not going to be making a living off of. A lot of those guys, they still have regular jobs. Now, if you're talking like regional titles like OPBF and, bigger like world titles, then you can start talking some serious money. And those types of fighters who get to that level, they can actually make a living off of just boxing. But a lot of these guys have, full-time jobs, especially anywhere from, Joe's level to like, Japanese championship. But yeah, not a ton else to say about this one, just another good episode. And yeah, honestly, just look forward to the next one. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got. As always, thanks for watching and peace.